After Coach Piperion Cortes won the Tennessee Volunteers their first national title since 1998, he drew looks from a lot of owners in the NFL. Plenty of bottom-feeding teams would be looking to make head coaching changes and interview the national champion. Little did they know that he's been watching them all along. In week number 18, Coach Pip sat by his television all day and watched all of the teams with coaches on the hot seat. He had two very important things he wanted in a potential landing spot, and he was searching for it. He watched as the Arizona Cardinals, down 20-10 with 3:31 left in the game against the rival Seahawks, were brought back to life by Kyler Murray to get the game into overtime, only for Geno Smith to throw a huge touchdown strike to Tyler Lockett to deflate all of State Farm Stadium. They offered an interview, which he didn't take. He then saw the Tennessee Titans put up zero fight against their rivals, the Jaguars, at home to fall to 4-13 on the season. He decided to stick with Mike Vrabel for the time being anyway, not offering Pip an interview, and that was no skin off of his nose. He was excited to see the Detroit Lions show a ton of moxie in a home win against the Minnesota Vikings, and he was really hoping to receive an interview. But Dan Campbell did well enough in that game to keep his job, at least for Black Monday, and Coach Pip wasn't waiting any longer. The Indianapolis Colts were in Coach Pip's type of game, a shootout. They were able to show a lot of fight and take a lead. But the Houston Texans just wouldn't go away, and they were able to get down the field for the game-winning field goal. The New England Patriots had a tough division matchup with the New York Jets. It was a tight back-and-forth game where the Patriots were able to get it into overtime, but Mac Jones ended up throwing a pick six, and they lost 30-24. The last game he was paying attention to was the Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Denver Broncos. These were two teams who could be landing spots for him, and Vegas was down 14-0 late in the first half before they finally got the football into the end zone, and they took that momentum into the second half as Ty Johnson got into the end zone as well to make it a 3-point game. Devontae Adams sprained his PCL in the game, and Vegas still managed to complete the comeback with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing a touchdown pass to the young Trey Tucker. He saw the fight in the Raiders and he loved the grit. It reminded him of his SMU squad and the Tennessee squad. Get knocked down, get back up. Remember that quote? With his Sunday viewing done, Black Monday came and went, and after taking interviews in Foxborough after Bill Belichick retired, Indianapolis, who fired first-year head coach Shane Steichen, and Las Vegas, who was very surprised that the second head coaching stint of Josh McDaniels was such a failure, he ended up receiving messages on his phone after a morning run.
Hey, Pippy, after a night of hookers and blow, I want to offer you the head coaching job here in Indianapolis. Just two conditions. You keep AR-15, and you trade Jonathan Taylor for a first-round pick. You hear me? No less than a first-round pick. Hey there, Piperion Cortes. Coach, after the retirement of our legendary coach, we didn't think there would be someone we felt this strongly about. Thank you for your incredible poise, and we would like to offer you the job to be the head man here in New England. We think you are just the guy to make Mac Jones flourish for once. If not, feel free to use Bailey Zappi, but we won't be taking a quarterback in the top of the draft again.
While he appreciated those offers, remember those two things he really wanted? Well, here they are. Number one, a team that showed fight and resilience in that Week 18 game. They didn't have to win, they had to be a team that wouldn't give up. And number two, a place where he could draft his own quarterback. At Penn State, he had to work with Sean Clifford. At SMU, he inherited Preston Stone. And at Tennessee, Taven Jackson was already there. But he did have one more message on his phone.
Hey, Coach Cortes, look, this organization's been through a lot. From players driving drunk and going to jail to players waving guns around on social media getting cut. I'm tired of it. We lack discipline. I'd like to offer you the head coaching job here in Vegas. It won't be easy, but I think you're just the disciplinarian to get the job done right. I heard the offers you receive from Indianapolis and New England would be very lucrative. Well, I'd like to offer you something more. Total autonomy. No GM. You make the choices. You coach the team. Get it done like you did in college. I just want a ring. Just win, baby.
He was sold. Coach Piperion Cortes went in that afternoon to sign on as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. It is a team that just lost the second overall pick to the Tennessee Titans by beating the rival Broncos. It is a team that couldn't get much offense going as Jimmy G threw for 3,900 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 10 picks. Josh Jacobs only ran for 760 yards and 5 touchdowns, and Davante Adams barely had over 1,000 yards with only 5 scores. Oh, and by the way, the previous regime gave Josh Jacobs a big extension off of that franchise tag season. Max Crosby was the one player on the team who showed out with 84 tackles, 29 TFLs, and 11.5 sacks, and he was the team's only Pro Bowler. This is also a defense that only had 3 total interceptions on the season. The Bills ended up taking out the Bengals, who beat the Chiefs in the playoffs again. Cowboys fans at least got to see an NFC title appearance, but they lost to the rival Eagles. But fear not, Dallas fans, because the Eagles got theirs, as they lost an overtime Super Bowl to Kyle Allen, who won MVP. Yes, this is not a typo. Kyle Allen played for an injured Josh Allen and threw 3 touchdowns, no picks, in the 30-24 overtime Super Bowl win. Mahomes won MVP, Lamar Offensive Player of the Year, Von Miller Defensive Player of the Year, Bijan Robinson Offensive Rookie, and Jack Campbell of the Lions Defensive Rookie. Heading into the offseason, among retirements were Raiders Ndamukong Suh, Brian Hoyer, and John Jenkins. Also, Pete Carroll retired as coach of the Seahawks. I thought that was interesting. Due to the previous regime, most players without a contract did not want a new one with the Raiders. Coach Cortes didn't mind. He let them all go. He also released Chandler Jones to save $16 million in cap space. Hunter Renfrow then was sent to Tennessee for Elijah Molden, a 2025 4th and 7th, and a 2026 5th to save some more money. Jerry Tillery became a veteran cut to save $2.3 million in cap space. Trayvon Moehrig was being asked for by a few teams, not knowing the situation. Cortes didn't feel the value was there, so he didn't trade him. In free agency, he did sign John Runyon to replace Gabe Jackson and Andre James to replace Matt Paradis, and he took a chance on the still young and developable Mekhi Becton to try to fix a bad offensive line. Cam Jordan took a $5 million mostly guaranteed deal for 1 year to provide more veteran leadership on the defensive side of the ball. Around the league, Kirk Cousins was going to Tennessee, Austin Eckler to Philly, Mike Williams and Darnell Mooney to Detroit, while Gabe Davis went to Chicago. That's fun. Christian Wilkins, Frankie Louvu, and Chidobe Awuzie all to the Texans, who spent some money, and our friend Chandler Jones ended up finding a home in Los Angeles. The draft was coming. The final mock draft had Arizona going with Virgil Evans, a power rusher from USC at number 1, Tennessee taking left outside linebacker Keaton Wade from the national champion Volunteers at number 2, and Preston Stone to the Raiders at number 3. Coach Piperion Cortes' old muse at SMU. Other highly touted players were cornerback Priest Pringle, defensive tackle Tyre West, Heisman running back Damon Claiborne, quarterback Babatunde St. Roma, corner Jason Navoa, defensive end Dark Specta, strong safety Solomon T. Gordon, right outside linebacker Crisp 20, defensive end Clint Barton, free safety Andre Turrentine, running back Cold Bizzo, free safety Danny Dizo, free safety Alejandro Clink III, cornerback Christian Charles, wide receiver Teddy Knox, tight end RJ Maryland, wide receiver Brennan Thompson, wide receiver Moochie Dixon, and defensive end Henry McZappelberg. Now you should know some of those names. More on that later. In the draft, the Cardinals did take Virgil Evans at number 1, and the Titans then scooped up Keaton Wade at number 2. So with the draft going as planned, this left Coach Pip thinking about trading down actually, but he really didn't like the value in any of the trade offers, so he made his choice. His franchise quarterback, his old friend, Preston Stone, would be the new franchise quarterback in Las Vegas. In the second round, Coach Cortes made sure he bolstered the line even more and got Addison Nichols of his Tennessee squad. In the third, he traded down with the Atlanta Falcons for their 4th round pick and a 2025 third. With his 2 4th-rounders, he selected Tennessee wide receiver Chaz Nimrod, who was tall and fast, a huge playmaker for the Vols, and Leonard Scott of ECU, the first non-SMU or Tennessee pick for Coach Cortes, but he really wanted to bolster that O-line. 5th round, he went for Tennessee's right outside linebacker, Daryl Manning, who was a sporadic player, but at 6'6", 260, he's a monster. Coach Pip was clearly going for trusted allies. The Raiders then had 3 7th-round selections, and the first was middle linebacker Elijah Herring from, you guessed it, the Vols, a pass coverage specialty linebacker. Next was Christian Harrison from the Vols. He's athletic, but he needs to be coached up. The final pick from the Vols is wide receiver Caleb Webb to go along with Nimrod and effectively replace Hunter Renfrow, another 6'3" playmaker for the new quarterback. Breaking the wall for a second here. Here's a draft recap of the first couple of rounds. I made this draft class with players from SMU, Tennessee, even some guys from opposing teams along the way. For instance, Heisman winner Damon Claiborne from Wake Forest. I do plan to continue doing this throughout with NCAA and Madden, so I hope you guys enjoy this kind of content. I also included players that you guys submitted from a channel post long ago. Some went straight into this class, and some are playing now in the college side of things. Lots of work was done since release to prep for this, so drop a like if you're enjoying, and submit a player name below if you haven't already done so previously, if you would like a chance at a future player. My plan is to keep a spreadsheet of guys that I've put in each recruiting class, so some of them will be shown in college. Some guys will actually go straight to the draft class with no college, as was done right here, and some will just be undrafted free agents on other teams. Oh, and by the way, Taven Jackson is a Denver Bronco and division rival to Coach Piperion Cortes and Preston Stone, and he feels a little bit slighted. More on that much later. Back to the story. Preston Stone looks to be a solid building block, and the pick of Addison Nichols looks even better. Chaz Nimrod has the potential to be a breakout 4th-round pick. The rest of the draft is being slated as developmental by most critics. Better than trash, I guess. A lot of people were wondering why Coach Cortes went so after a lot of his old players, and he had this to say. I didn't know that I would be winning a national championship and coming to the NFL this quickly, so I didn't have time to scout the rest of the country's draft-eligible players. Just a couple months ago, I was recruiting for Tennessee. Give me some time. We'll be checking out the rest of the country next year. For now, I went with what I know. I know Preston Stone is smart and instinctive. I know Addison Nichols is the type of lineman this team needs, and I know that Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb are tall playmakers this team can use alongside Devontae Adams. We'll be fine. The Raiders went into training camp with Preston Stone looking like, well, a rookie. Josh Jacobs was simply schooling the defense all over the field, so there's really nothing new there if you're a Raiders fan. Both rookie wideouts kind of had solid camps, but Chaz Nimrod looks explosive. Raiders fans are hoping for big things from him. The offense looks re-energized with young talent, and the defense, they're going to try to hang in there, just like SMU's defense did, and just like Tennessee's defense did before Cortes hired Coach Amani Wambui to run it. We'll hear more about how Coach Wambui is doing soon, as well as how the Raiders preseason goes, starting with a matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. I hope you're as excited to find out how all of this unfolds as I am. I love you, FG fam.